we don't want to take up.
I'm starting the recording. Surprise.
Scared me. Today, we want to just take a moment and kind of reflect and be celebrating about computer science in general. Next week marks a very awesome week in computer science where schools that don't have computer science getting involved, or schools that are starting to damper into it, or schools that are full flown into it, have a chance to really just say, this is a week that we just want to spend some time talking computer science. And CSTA and a lot of other groups, code.org, have really worked together to provide some pretty awesome resources for their theme that's been picked, which is CS Everywhere. And so we wanted to kind of highlight some of the activities that are being already provided to you. We kind of have this mentality of, these are really good things to do. And instead of reinventing the wheel, let's borrow these and use them in our classrooms, or just think about how these are applied for us as we go along. So I think I might be bouncing this off to Nicole to talk about our welcoming activities.
So the one thing I love to point out about the CS Ed Week activities in particular is that, and I know I'm kind of preaching to the choir, but for me, this is so important coming from a slightly different background, not coming from that CS background, but coming from the ELA background, is the fact that the CS Everywhere, the CS Ed Week materials and resources aren't just coding based. I think a lot of times when other teachers hear CS, all they think is programming and coding, and they don't realize that computer science is a much larger field. So the fact that the CS Ed Week resources really speak to the fact that they can be integrated into a lot of classrooms, I think is important. So as you're looking at it, even from the CS lens, think about your other educators that you might know down the hall, in a different department, different grade level, who might find ways to use these resources in ways you might not expect coming from that CS background. So I'm going to go out to the welcome activities. They're linked in here in number 1. I'll just copy it, throw it in the chat in case you're multi-screening like I am. So the welcome activities are under this teach section of the CS Ed Week website. So I'm going to scroll up because I was just perusing these babies. And they all really center around the posters, which are built into that teach section. So I am going to hop out there real fast. And you'll see where it says download all posters, where you can access all of them. They're also going to come up as a theme throughout a number of these activities. So I do like to point that out.
One more.
So each of these posters, Robin, I can hear you. I'm going to mute you. Awesome. So each of the activities that are in here, there's 3 that they highlight. They all center around the posters that are available in here, and they're all just simply prompts. And I really think that they can be adapted in a variety of different ways. So the first one in here as a welcome activity is really a class opener or a warm up, where essentially you ask or pose the question of, what about the CS hero stands out to you and why? And you can give students the access to the virtual or the digital posters. Yes, and you can also order them if you actually want to order them so you have them each year. One of the things that I like to point out, it's okay, Robin, about the posters, I'm gonna hop back out here for a second because I don't know, I get kind of excited about these posters. So the downloads, you're gonna come on down here where the poster lesson is, with all of these different pieces in the teach section. But when you scroll down, they're all digital in here. So you can send a student to this page to click on each of these. And I have used them even in professional development opportunities where you have these backgrounds, you have the download that's here. They'll have videos embedded, additional resources, extension activities, and so on and so forth. Exactly. You don't actually need the physical posters, but hopping back, CS Everywhere is the theme for this section of posters, but you can also keep hopping through the hashtags and get through even more posters. So if you're feeling limited by the one section of posters, there's a lot of choices here. You could even group students a little bit differently. So back to the actual lessons that are in the platform. I'm going to go there. So the welcome activities are right here. And again, this particular activity just simply asks students to look at the posters and think about what CS hero stands out for them and then why. And they really have it laid out this way where you introduce it, you do a think, pair, share, they read and respond, they discuss, and you can have a whole class discussion. Really, really simple and straightforward. I think it would be great if you kind of threw a Jamboard in and had students post their thoughts or their favorite poster or the person who speaks to them the most. They even have each of these lessons broken down. So if you're thinking about a particular curriculum topic from the CS perspective, maybe next week you are going into some robotics, maybe e-textiles. I want to dig in a little bit more with that. I'm not super familiar with e-textiles, so I find that one very exciting. Cybersecurity, which is one of those things that I love to read more about. So the topics are also in here, and you can do an activity just based on the topic and introduce one of these heroes that way. And again, this is another, what about the CS hero stands out to you? So if there's a particular one that goes in with your content area, you could use it that way. And then it's also, and I love this part, broken down by different heritage awareness months. So you could pick an individual in particular to focus on based upon the heritage month that individual relates with. And that continues down here. What do you and the CS hero have in common? What about the CS hero inspires you? And again, they have kind of a breakdown of how you can use this with your students. But I think this is a great jumping off point. There's so much potential to do different things with these posters. So if I'm going to come back up here to teach, I believe the next section, Jeff, were you going to go over the next section? The poster lesson?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to click right in there.
Cool. So like Nicole kind of mentioned, a lot of everything about this week is going to kind of, the ideas given to you foster around these posters. So the poster lesson is a really nice one to kind of get your students introduced to what the posters are about, the information that's on there. What I really like about it, just from like a starting point, is they provide a potential opener to kind of just get your students thinking about certain topics and reflecting about what does computer science being everywhere really mean to you. And I think that's a really important discussion point, because my students rarely, when I first start teaching them, think about how computer science is ingrained in music or how computer science is a part of biology. And the more and more we learn about computer science, we see how those aspects come into play. So having that chance to like lead into that is, I think, a really healthy conversation. From there, basically, you get a little scavenger hunt activity. Our answers are already provided to you, and they already have questions made for you with these posters as well. So you can check out all the posters. You click on their names, you get a little bio about each of those people, and then there's a scavenger hunt in the table below that will get your students to have to check out each person and find where each person is falling under. So it's a little bit of an accountability activity, just getting students a chance to kind of learn some little stupid random facts. Like, stupid's the wrong word, but it's not tying into anything necessarily in the computer science field. It's more about just learning who these people are as people. Answer keys are provided for you, so you don't even have to do it yourself, but I recommend you do, because it's cool to learn about these people as well. Then they provide some optimistic closures, just to kind of get you to think about, who did you look into if you chose to extend this activity and pick one and go into more detail, and kind of like having that opportunity to share and things on those lines. To extend into this, if you continue like, wow, the posters were really cool, you can have them do additional heroes and research more. You can have them do like group research or things along those lines, and potentially research their own heroes as they go along as well. You can pretty much follow along. It's very smooth and straightforward. But again, it's a really nice quick introduction towards our poster selected individuals.
Okay. So I'm going to hop us back to our teach page. There we go. So the next section is really just on optimistic closures. So the reason we're kind of highlighting this is because it's so flexible. If you want to dive in and do that full lesson piece, that you're going to focus on these posters and have that drive the lesson and really build it out and do maybe a full class period on it, fantastic. The resources are there. If you're thinking, I have a lot of stuff already planned for CS Ed Week, there are a lot of different resources that I'm using. I have my plans I use every year, but I definitely want to incorporate these. That opener or the welcome activity might be a perfect way to do it, or to come back to this in a different heritage month, or to come back to this in a different piece. And the same goes for these exit pieces. So the optimistic closures, they have 3 different ways that you can use it during CS Ed Week, throughout the school year as well, depending on your lesson. So if you think about this one's just the straightforward exit ticket. How does the work of this CS hero impact your life? I think that's a fantastic open-ended question. And really, you could make that into a lesson in and of itself, where you have students grouped looking at those particular posters and then saying, okay, how does the CS hero impact my life? and then doing research on the topics based upon all of those links that are in the posters, watching the video and reporting back, these are the areas that I didn't realize this particular person impacts me. Maybe intentionally have them go in there and read over them and find the one they think least impacts their life and find out, is that really true? This area CS really doesn't impact my life? Because I think what'll happen is that it will slowly reveal that it does. So this is just an exit ticket along those lines. You see that the minutes are broken down, the introduction of the activity with the posters, having students discuss, and then bringing it back to that whole class discussion. This one, again, it's broken down by that curriculum topic piece. So if you know you're in a specific area or focusing throughout the year, you can drill down on that specific area. And then the same one back here with Heritage Awareness Month. So if you start to think about it, the welcome activities and the closing activities in here are somewhat similar. But if you're linking it into a lesson where you're already teaching some aspect, this is a great piece to either intro or close on with your students. Or as Jeff kind of pointed out, in the lessons that are full, that are in the middle, it could easily be used as a full lesson piece. So I'm going to pass it back over to Christina for the next piece. And I think that's the CS poster, or is it Jeffrey?
I should be doing 5, the Future Me poster, and then the CS connections.
Okay. Well, this is the next one then.
Yeah, no, are you on number 4, the Future Me poster?
Yep.
Yeah. We have Christina listed on that one.
That's okay.
Yeah, I didn't think our numbering system quite matched up. Are we missing one?
We might be.
We are missing, no, it's in here, but that's okay. Because that's the PA education ones. We just missed the My CS Hero poster, I think.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. I got confused when I saw that. I was excited about the CS is everywhere theme just because that was my big idea, my first unit in my computer science class that I wrote the curriculum for. So it was really cool to see some of these resources, and I wish I would have known about more of them. The Future Me poster, unless you want me to talk about
Nope,
the
go
CS
for
Hero.
it. You got it.
Okay. The Future Me poster I thought was neat, and we can go over it quickly. They provide resources in different formats. So if you want to use Google Slides, PowerPoint, or in PDF. One of the things that I liked for it is that it was accessible K through 12. And it was engaging to students K through 12 because they really get to think about things that are interesting to them and like personal things that they like to do, and think about how that relates to future careers and how computer science might impact those different areas. And they do that through a planning guide, which is provided. And then there are some templates that are provided as well for them to use their planning guide and make a poster that represents their future self. Yeah, that's the planning guide. And I liked the planning guide, and then I know it's good instructional. It's a good instructional strategy to have some examples as well. And I liked that they were already provided to have some examples so students can see a little bit more about what's expected of them. Some good practice.
There's some great scaffolding in here.
Mm-hmm.
All right, where am I jumping to next, crew?
The CS connections, please.
All right.
Yes, yeah, Robin, that was thank you for bringing that up about the career evidence for state requirements. That's something that if you are on our agenda, Rachel actually gave some of the links to the PA career education and work standards, because you're exactly right. There is career awareness and some preparation there, and it does help cover some of those state requirements for Pennsylvania. Really good point. Thank you for bringing that up. I meant to say something about that.
Could probably be an artifact.
Yeah, it definitely could be. Yeah, I'm going to remember that for the future. So the CS Connections starts with a video in both K through 5 and 6 through 12. So they have 2 separate lesson plans. The video is the same in both. It's 5 minutes and 30 seconds. And just, I watched it again today and realized that it's the same video that I had happened to show my students in a past year. And the students I showed it to were high school students, and they really liked the video. The video has it does some interviews of some people that are in different professions, some really short interviews. So one of them is like the creator of Dropbox. They have a medical researcher. They have a few different people in different career backgrounds, and it's a very diverse group of people that they're interviewing as well. And then they also show different clips about how computer science is involved in different things such as agricultural, fashion, medicine, some things that you might not have thought about before. And I thought that was pretty neat. And that was one of the big takeaways for my students when I used the video, is that they were surprised at how much computer science is involved in that they didn't realize. So computer science really did feel like it was everywhere to them. The lesson plans that supported involve some brainstorming about some maybe areas of interest and some other areas not talked about in the video, and how computer science might be related to that. Some potential for some research, or even I think this would tie in nicely to the Future Me posters, where students get to pick an area that they're interested in and find out how is computer science related to that particular field. So I think the CS Connections and that Future Me poster could really relate really well together.
All right, now we're to the CS Hero poster. I was jumping the gun. So this is just the elements of the plan, if I'm looking at it correctly. Jeffrey will correct me if I'm
happy
wrong.
to speak to this one if you want.
Absolutely, Jason.
This is
You've been nominated.
This one is pretty much exactly the same as the Future Me poster, like the instructions and the planning and the sheets. It's just a different call to action. Call to action here is to, find someone from your world who you consider a CS hero based on those other things, right? That CS is everywhere, and that, CS is impacting us in ways we don't even know. So like, where the Future Me is for them to picture themselves in whatever their future career is and how it intersects with computer science. This one is find somebody who's already doing that, that maybe you know of already, like a music producer, Dr. Dre using, computer science and algorithms to create beats for songs, things like that, and make a poster of that person. But pretty much it's scaffolded and laid out exactly the same as the Future Me.
So you could almost take the one and have them do kind of their CS hero, maybe start there and do it one way. I would say from a creative aspect, I would have them design like my CS hero poster, do the research, and or contact somebody locally. I think it'd be really exciting to hop into, say, Google Maps and find a business nearby that employs folks who are using computer science, reach out, do like a really quick interview in some way or some level of research. It could just be an email, and get that information, build it maybe using slides, and then they have to do one for themselves. And instead of building it in slides, maybe they have to use some other digital platform in order to use a variety of digital media, or maybe they need to go into Scratch and code themselves.
How cool would it be to get a collection of local CS heroes?
That was the thing,
like a database,
was to have schools and teachers share them through the chapters, and there's even ways to share them with us, but share them and create this repository where Jeff can take a set of posters that Nicole's class made and do the other poster activity with those people, local people, and vice versa, flip-flop. So
I think that's awesome. We could probably, now that we're all just sitting here thinking about it, we could probably create a shared slide deck where we could all throw heroes, local heroes, whether they're ones that students created with students' permission, or we could build something like that. It would be neat to do that with a level of contacts, like with contact information, so that any of us, like, so for instance, our interviews we've had the last 2 months have been with CS folks. Thanks, Jason. Have a good one. So yeah, either through the volunteers that we have or through just local folks that we know, to almost build our own little CS Hero contact section, or to have students reach out and start to build. I like the students doing it more myself, but it might be another idea moving forward. All right, Jeffrey, I think I'm turning the mic back over to you.
Sure. So we just posted the link for our code stuff. It's just kind of like the yearly time for our code. It kind of started the whole CS Ed week following on the Grace Hopper's birthday week on December 9th kind of deal. Our code always provides wonderful little activities to introduce students at all levels. So if you're looking to be an advocate for your district and your district isn't doing computer science district-wide yet, this is an easy way to say, hey, let's everyone drop, do an hour, maybe not all at the same time if your bandwidth can't handle it, like my district couldn't, and give every grade level a chance to do a little coding during this week. What a great way to kind of get students excited, passionate about it. So when they get to wherever classes you're serving your buildings in, they're a little more prepared or understanding where they're heading with those directions. There's always great fun ones that are kind of like staples on there. There's like some Minecraft ones and Elsa, like snowflake dancing, and all sorts of ones that you can kind of experience. And they range from scratch coding with like drag and drop type blocks, and they do expand up to other types where there's maybe formal programming like a JavaScript or something, or some learning activities involved. All sorts of information. So you can go to the activities page and filter based on what you're looking for based on grade levels, and then they'll give you some recommendations of what students can or can't do. My one thing I really like is, even when I'm teaching a more formal coding class, even if we have a drag and drop block one, usually there's some sort of mechanics that come into play that we can talk about. So what happens if you change this? How does this impact your program? And again, then just think about like the cause and effect of one simple rule change and how that affects everything. There's also then like additional sections for like promoting computer science in your buildings and districts. And they do have connection points. Code Like Word does run like volunteers that you can contact, and they'll potentially come in or Google Meet in or Zoom into your rooms and talk to your students about computer science. So it's a great website to get involved with and just play around with, even if it's just for an hour. Next is always kind of our I feel like we're going to be talking about it for a long time. We don't have more information on the CS praxis and certification. I haven't heard anything else changing about it yet, but we do know that the CS for All team in Pennsylvania, they do pay, have some money that pays for teachers to go through a praxis prep course. And if you haven't done that yet and you want to, it did sound like they have an inkling that they're going to be getting more keys sooner than later, that I would really recommend that you do sign up to get a notice. It is kind of first come, first serve on however many keys they purchase at a shot. I went through it. For me, I did have prior experience that I found a lot of the coding things to be things I didn't need to practice, but I still found several of the content areas being really helpful because I just didn't have all the background that the praxis is looking for, and outside of the scope of just of the software coding portion of it, learning some of the other formalities was still important. And if you are a part of any of those PA Smart pathways towards certification, you are allowed to sign up to meet with a tutor one-on-one. And we just have the link for that. There's 4 tutors in the state of PA. You basically can go onto their calendars, select a date, they'll meet with you at that time through Zoom, and whatever questions you have on whatever content area, they're there to help you out. And these are all teachers that have passed the praxis and have done scored really, really well on it. So if you're looking for some supports, there's definitely some in Pennsylvania right now. Besides that, I don't think there's any more information about certification at the moment. The state is still doing reimbursement for a lot of these things. So if you are looking to do it and you don't want the cost to inflict on you, they are reimbursing. If you pass the praxis, they'll reimburse the praxis. And if your district didn't reimburse you, and they'll also reimburse for you to apply for the certificate itself, because that actually costs money as well. So those are all nice things.
I
Yep.
would add, Jeff, that sooner rather than later, if you're looking for those reimbursement pieces, just because of some of the dates that I was seeing on some of it, we're saying like 2022, 2023. So if you're not if you're thinking, oh, I'll get to it, it's not a rush right now. I would add that if you're thinking reimbursement, like I want to make sure that I don't have to pay for this out of my pocket, or my district doesn't, and I want to make sure it's reimbursed. I would look at it in the next like year and a half.
Yeah, I know at one point they had mentioned they just had so much money set aside, and when that dries up, like that's all the money that's there. So that it is kind of first come, first serve, with a priority given to those that have done some pathway preparation beforehand through the SMART grants and stuff. So the next one, I'm going to try my best not to get overly excited, but I'm ecstatic for our January meeting. I'm hoping to have a lot of people show up. So this is a self-promotion for this one. I already did send out the email as well, because in this one, you can get a free kit if you are interested in joining us for it. So it's called Fidgets. Fidgets integrate super nicely through USB with your computers. I have a grant of $1,400 worth of fidgets in my classroom, and it's amazing what my students are able to do with devices. Their website is beautiful. Like when you're going through, you can set up your language and environment, which would be a great one to click on, Nicole. The set my language and environment. You're like on the page. Yeah, because you can choose what operating system they're working on, you can choose what language you're teaching, and you can choose what IDE they're coding off of. So like my students are Mac OS, Java, and Eclipse. We click those and the whole website calibrates to my students' software now. So as we look through anything, any resources, any directions, it's specified strictly to what my students are working with. What's really exciting about the Fidgets as well is that they are also adding in block coding. So it's going to also trickle down. You can actually see in the top right, I think the websites are not live yet, but they're going to have Scratch built in with their Fidgets. So we're talking elementary and middle school kids are going to be able to use Fidgets. And again, it's collecting real world data. I have a sonar sensor that can detect distances. So we made a red light, green light game in my classroom. We have a sensor that detects light. So when you turn off my classroom lights, I have a lamp that just turns on just for fun to show off the skills of it. I could go over tons of everything I have, like I said, but we don't want to ruin the whole surprise. However, if you are interested in this and you're like, oh, this is really cool, you're going to want to make sure that you apply for the free kit. You'll get I think it's like a $14 or $18 kit for free. It's a box that contains 2 buttons, LED lights, and a vent hub. If that doesn't make sense yet, it will. It's super easy once you see it. And if you use the CSTA sus code, you're also going to get a bonus sensor. I'm not sure which one you're going to get at the time, but whatever one you get, it's extra stuff to learn and play off of. They are constantly expanding. It should be a really good time. And we're having someone from Fidgets actually coming and presenting for us. So I'll have to bite my tongue during his presentation because I'll just want to take over and share all my stuff, but it's going to be awesome. Okay. The other one to talk about moving into the next section is in March. We are going to be working towards a Computer Science Teacher Association statewide unconference. The word unconference might be something unfamiliar to some. So short answer is we don't have an agenda. You're basically going to show up and you're going to tell us days before when you register what topics you care about or what topics you want to be discussing with peers. And then those of us that are planning this unconference are going to create Zoom rooms with those categories that you can then basically come join, pick and choose which rooms you want to jump into and let the conversations just spiral out. The hope is to just connect. That's a big one for me, is just learning who do we have in the state that can be resources. And we're working to try to get all Pittsburgh, Philly, Longwood, and Susquehanna Valley, all a part of this unconference, and Patton is also supporting us with this as well and helping host. Because they're hosting, you can get Act 48 hours, and we are working towards some pretty cool prizes as well. So if you like free stuff, we might have some free things to give away. Don't hold me on it. A lot of this is still in the works, but these are things that we're trying to do for everyone at this point. Any questions on upcoming dates that are just worthy of keeping in mind as we move forward?
I'm super excited about the unconference. I'm excited about fidgets because I actually have had that kit for a while sitting on my desk, and I'm like I just haven't taken the initiative to get into the platform. So I'm excited about that. But I am super excited also about the unconference. I just like having the ability to hear what great things everybody else is already using or doing. I think sometimes when we get a chance to hive mind with folks in an unconference kind of style, I don't know, I just feel like that's sometimes where I get some of my best ideas and some of the best resources, because they're usually coming from folks who've already tried them in the classroom and are like, look, this worked for me. This is where I found the trouble, pain points. This is what didn't work. I don't know. I feel like it really hashes itself out. And it is virtual, so anybody across the state will be able to log in and join, which is nice too.
Yeah, that was one of our big discussion points was, do we make it at Harrisburg? And the kind of leaning force was, well, there's already the CS for All Summit in June. That's usually going to be at Harrisburg. Let's make this one virtual just to make it easier for everyone else as we move along. Our next Roman numeral is just a little announcement we saw from Microbit and the Infosys. They're basically partnering together. If you're a Title I school, they're giving away like 5,000 microbits to schools. So if you're in that category, if you're looking for an extra resource, they're giving 10 per school, I think. Looks really, really cool. They're also providing a lot of cool curriculum that's going to just be free in general. So even if you can't get your own microbits and your school already has some, it'll be a really good resource for your elementary schools. And then standing resources, I'm not sure. These are just things that we try to keep on as we think are relevant. So if you're interested in just learning a little bit about other things that are available, we have our resource information where we hive mind what information our members are using and what types of robots or curriculums or things online that we can use. There's the drones. If you want to do the build fly code, I think you can still be applying for that at the moment.
I think they have some new cohorts that are going to be starting.
Yeah.
So if you do apply, it'll be for like cohort 2 or 3, I think.
And then of course, I'm not going to read the rest, but the rest are labeled pretty nicely. If you're looking to engage with some other, just learning some resources, we wanted to provide some based on what people were kind of like hinting or asking about. Nancy, do you use the microbits in class with your students?
Yeah, and in my tech club, and I keep getting these free ones because like I went to this discovery forum through Parallax last summer, and actually just right before Thanksgiving, I finished a 3-day workshop after school. I mean, they just send you free stuff to participate. This is just one of them. I have a $250 robot from last year, a Cyberbot. So, I mean, they're just so easy. Our elementary school has little kits using little hummingbird plugins and stuff like that. And I think they're just a quick, easy, cheap tool that has just so much on it. And yeah, they're hard to come by right now, like in big sets, only because of supply and demand. But I mean, I would recommend, you know, like when Parallax sends out and does these teacher things and they send you this stuff for free because they want you to use their resources. They got a ton of tutorials online with that and all their other stuff, electronics, if you want to do any of that. So I do. I really, my kids love them. They think they're great. Even at high school, they think they're great. They're just a great starter for, hey, I can look at what I can do with this thing. So yeah.
Cool. Thanks for sharing. Should you ever, you know, get those emails like, hey, we're giving out free stuff. If you want to shoot it our way, one way or the other, then we can send it out to everyone as well. Yeah, Robin's already looking for a link because that's
Absolutely.
what we do. Let's start. I actually started Googling it myself. I was trying to see if I found it or not. I think it might just be parallax.com.
It is parallax.com. And actually, like when you go through some of their stuff, like now that I've done that, I actually now have access to teacher resources with answers and code. And I mean, and there are just free tutorials on there to begin with, that kids can use that are all open. But then there is a teacher side of it too, that you can, you know, have answers to the lessons and things like that. So yeah, if you go under education, and I mean, there's so much, they have so much stuff that they have on there. And one of the things I've been doing lately is the cyberbot. So if you, and the cyberbot is one that cyber.org uses in their curriculum. And like we're working, I just got a couple conversion kits, and that we're going to use those in my cybersecurity class, because you can teach hacking, denial of service techniques and things like that with the with that. So we're in the process of building them now so that we can try those tutorials. It'll be our first. We're just going to kind of all do it together and figure it out. So they offer there's a Python, microbit Python editor that we use with those. And no, they're great tutorials. The one I just took was about electronics, things like that, some breadboarding, which I know nothing about, but you know, hey, having a fun time learning it, you know, so that I can try and introduce it to the kids and stuff like that. So yeah, the next time I get something, I know they're planning something for the spring. They just haven't announced what it is yet, but I'll certainly.
Absolutely.
Anyone else have any fun, awesome things to share? Or free stuff?
Anybody else? Free things? That's awesome. I'm going to throw that in the agenda.
Yeah, I was trying to see if there's any like get onto a newsletter, but I wasn't finding a direct newsletter thing. Wondering if I create an account, if that's going to be.
That might be the way to do it.
If you go to community, there's a newsletter. There you go. Well, that's only on Propeller too. Maybe not. Yeah, I'll have to keep an eye out.
I would say I'm here for it.
Cool. Well, we have a really, I think, important philosophy that we don't stick to. We must be an hour-long meeting. If we are 10 minutes short, we celebrate on the fact that we can go to bed 10 minutes earlier. I don't know if you're in the same boat, but that's.
I was asleep at 8 o'clock on Tuesday, so yeah, this is past my bedtime.
We appreciate you coming out. If you are doing anything awesome, we'd be happy to tweet out those things and make it feel super duper official. Those are things we can totally do for you as well. Find cool stuff, please share, because again, we're only as good as the things we find, and it'd be nice to know what things we're missing, because we're using the resources we see all the time. But I mean, I never heard of Parallax until tonight. So, you know, that's now a new thing I need to be looking for. So I owe Nancy a lot for that one already, because I'm sure I'll be scooping something free up in the spring. Yeah, so please reach out if we can do anything for you. We appreciate all that you do for your students and driving computer science. Even if we don't know fully what those are, it's just a wonderful place to be. And next week is a chance to celebrate and reflect on that. So I hope you get a chance to also reflect on the things you do for your students.
Can I offer one more thing?
Absolutely.
We have
honestly, you can take the lead for the next hour.
We will have inductions for our Computer Science Honor Society on December 15th. We will have our first official induction of students and so forth. So yeah.
How many students are going to be inducted?
Well, I'll know next week. They have their applications. They're collecting their applications now. It took a while. We've had some little hiccups in, they lost our application and all this kind of stuff. So we are now on track again. So yes.
Wonderful.
So I expect at least 10 to 12 students right now. I have 20 that are eligible, but it's a matter of whether or not they want the service part. That's
well,
the thing.
Nancy, I know from hearing from other chapter leaders, sometimes the honor societies like to do things for CSTA chapters in general. Like whether it's presentations to the membership about things they did in their community, or if you have brainstorms, that's totally something we could connect with you on. Not right now, but maybe in April or May if you have something. So please keep us in mind with that if we can support you in that boat.
Sure.
So
Cool.
yeah, we're flexible. We'd like to try to do things. So short answer. I'll start stretching more though. Bad joke. All right. Anything else at the moment?
Awesome. Well, then I recorded this, so I'm going to make sure it's in YouTube. I will make sure that send it out. I'm going to send it out as an email so that I know the newsletter is getting eaten. And I'll even put maybe a little note in the email about searching for those
Yeah,
members Nova.
I added that to our leadership minutes to maybe add in a generic email with saying, hey, please waitlist these 2 emails. And then hopefully that will hit for the next newsletter.
Awesome.
So, cool. Thank you, everyone. Have a fantastic night.
Absolutely. Have a great one, guys. Have a happy Friday tomorrow.
Oh man, Friday.